My name is Kirosh Kirore. I'm an innovator. I work within the arts. I'm a visual artist and I create books and artworks that communicate things around climate change and many other social issues.
My name is Aliana Onjiku Klasingadai. I am 10 years old from the Ponyhurst Trade School, and I'm 10 years old and I am in year 6. I am an ambassador. I'm an Eco Warrior Ambassador for climate change and Kenya's youngest Mashujaa. And I'm also the co-chair task force of Michuki Park.
My name is Elizabeth Wathuti and I'm the head of campaigns and also the Daima Coalition Coordinator at Wangari Maathai Foundation. And Daima is a coalition of civic actors who have all come together to advocate for the protection of green spaces and also advocate for the appreciation of the value of the same.
Kwa majina naitwa Philomena. Mimi ni mwenye biashara hapa Uhuru Park since 2006.
My name is Phyllis Waitha. I'm a lawyer by profession, an environmentalist, and I'm also the founder of Where is the Love Kenya. Where is the Love is a youth-led peace organization that is set to reduce the prevalence of youth involvement in crime and violence.
Green spaces mean so much to me, even within my creative process, because I feel like there's a time I just need to be by myself and in some weird way connect with nature and just pour out whatever comes.
What they mean to me is that my home, where I was raised, and my health. Basically, my favorite green spaces are Michuki Park, Uhuru Park, Kura Forest, and my home, which is not exactly a green space, but it's green. Green spaces are quite meaningful. It's like you have to treat a green space like let's say a butterfly, the way they're very sensitive. So, for example, the Michuki Park, if you cut down all the trees here, it'll be a dump site again, very dangerous place. And also, green spaces are quite great. You know, where you can tell all your secrets out to trees.
Park inakuwa mzuri sana juu kama ni watu wale wanakuja kupumzika. Wanakujaga kupumzika hapa, mtu akiwa sasa amekuwa tired na nyumbani ama saa nyingine hana kazi, na ukiwa hapa una relax because uko kwa park na uko kwa miti. Sasa unasikia hiyo environment ni mzuri kusida kwa nyumba. Because kwa estate ni manyumba kubwa tu, hakuna kitu kingine. Huna peace when you are there inside. Kwa hivyo park ni mzuri. Hata wakati ilikuwa imeambiwa itakatwa, tulikuwa na huzuni sana. Tulikuwa tunasidwa watu watakuwa wanaendaga wapi, especially watoto wale wanaletwa. Hata mtoto akikuja huko anasikia environment ni different kutoka ile anakuaga nayo kwa estate.
There are various challenges that are facing green spaces in our country, and I will say the key one is the disregard of the environment in matters development. We do have the Environmental Impact Assessment that is enshrined in our Constitution, as well as the Environmental Management and Coordination Act. But the issue with regards to the EIA is implementation. How are we able to implement environmental impact assessment and audits? Another issue with regards to the environmental impact assessment is with regards to plurality. When you talk about licensing of any project, you can get licensing from the county and you can get licensing as well from NEMA. So you can find developers seeing ways in which they can be able to, give some money to the county, which is easier to get the licensing from the county as opposed to NEMA. So you're seeing these are some of the shortcomings that we have with regards to the environmental impact assessment, which is very key when it comes to matters development and protecting the environment in matters development. So what can we be able to do to ensure that that which is enshrined in the Constitution is happening on the ground? And that is the reason why we come up with this advocacy advocacy activities to ensure that what it is that we are writing in our constitution is enshrined on the ground. Even when we talked about the fig tree was literally on the way of the Nairobi Expressway. And what happened is that the moment we raised our voices and we talked about it, the EIA came into play with regards to rerouting and redesigning the expressway to ensure that the fig tree is still where it is. So that is something very important, and it is a clear indication that EIA is possible. Protecting the environment in matters development is possible, and if we do ensure that we have green in our mind when it comes to matters development, green instead of green, definitely we can be able to develop and we can be able to ensure that our environment is safe and protected.
The Daima Coalition has been working to make sure that we address all these challenges, and we've been working through working groups like the legal working group, advocacy working group, and also communications.
A sustainable city to me means green. A city that prioritizes green as opposed to green. This means green parks, a lot of green spaces, clear regard of the environment when it comes to matters development. A sustainable city also means inclusivity. To me means inclusivity of different people from different socials, different livelihoods and different social statuses. When you look at parks, and what I like about parks, especially somewhere like the Uhuru Park is a free park. It encompasses people from various walks of life and does not discriminate with regards to who has money or who does not have money. You can come there with nothing and still be able to enjoy the green space. So inclusivity is key, and if we can have more green spaces that are free to the public, that are free for people to be able to enjoy, then definitely that is an example of a sustainable city to me.
When you talk about sustainable cities, we have to go down to its very, very basic, which is resources. We know that there are renewable resources and non-renewable resources. So how do we live in such a way that the renewable resources can sustain our livelihoods?
The late Professor Wangari Maathai always espoused on the power of one. And she said that each and every one of us can make a difference, but collectively we are a force. And that's exactly why, as the Daima Coalition for Green Spaces, we are trying to make sure that all Kenyans and everyone from all walks of life understands that they have a place and a space to fight for the protection of their green spaces, because we need green spaces for our survival, we need them for our health, and we need them for our well-being. And we also need to continue nurturing young champions of green spaces to fight for their spaces, and to also continue revitalizing some of their spaces, because we can reform and change the face of our environment based on what we decide to do right now.
Development ni mzuri, lakini hatuwezi tukadevelop everywhere where we cannot have parks or somewhere to relax, because kama wewe umekuwa tired na nyumba, utakuja kwa park na utaona watu na akili yako ita relax.
One of the things that kind of triggered this whole conversation in my mind was me going to my grandmother's place and finding that the river we used to swim in when I was a kid was no longer there for us to swim in. And I started asking around, what happened to the river? It was now left just as very tiny stream that I could just jump over. And that by itself was kind of disruptive in my thinking. I started noticing that many people had encroached into the river, and they were thinking that a few meters into the river, they'd probably get a better harvest or something like that. And that was really disturbing and annoying, because it just did not feel right. As a child, I just felt like this does not make sense. Does it mean that if everybody does that, then we'll do away with rivers entirely? And what then would that translate into? And very subconsciously started bothering my mind, and it translated into my artwork.
Well, so when we were learning about Wangari Maathai, I thought I should be like her. So I asked many questions about her, and then I went home and asked my mom if I could plant a tree. And there was no seedling ready, so we planted this seed which looks like it's meant to be an orange or lemon tree. So I planted it, and then I asked her if I could plant more, and she said, okay.
I feel like green spaces should be protected and should be owned by everyone around them. That would be a very important first step, but also we also need to figure out how policymakers also buy into this idea. I feel like it needs to start on a community level, because that way, even if policymakers may be slow, at least the community is doing something. But over time, even these policymakers will see the changes that are being enforced by the community benefiting them, and they will also be motivated to contribute.
How we can develop is every time we build a road, plant 10 more trees that we cut down for the road. Every time we're building a building and there's some trees where you want it to be, plant 10 more. That's how we're going to develop, and there's going to be more oxygen, and each time carbon dioxide is caused, we need to stop that because it's bad. Each time it's caused, at least there are enough trees to produce oxygen for us to breathe.
Moving forward, there are so many action points that we can take forward in terms of making sure that our green spaces are well protected and that people appreciate and understand the value that comes with our spaces. And of course, one of them is focusing on how we can shape policy and ensure that we have policies that strike a balance between green spaces and also infrastructure development. You know that one of the greatest challenges that is facing our green spaces right now is the challenge of development. So how can we make sure that development puts green spaces and even trees at the center of it all? So, and the other thing we can continue to do is also revitalize our spaces, change the faces of our spaces and give them a people's view. For example, if I come to a place like Michuki Park, I know there's Wi-Fi installed, there are benches where I can sit down and do my work, and it's also safe and secure. So how can we make sure that all the parks and all the green spaces in Kenya have the same face and the same shape, whereby every Kenyan out there, every Kenyan of all walks of life can be able to enjoy the spaces? So like recently, the Daima Coalition was revitalizing Freedom Corner, and I know we put up some benches there that also remind us of the legacy of the late Professor Wangari Maathai, and we also have some pathways, and we also were doing a lot of landscaping to make the place look more beautiful. So how can we make sure that young people and different people around the country are doing the same for their spaces, even back in their community gardens? And the other thing we can of course do is to fight for our spaces and make sure that our spaces are remaining as intact for the next generations to come. If we do not speak for our green spaces right now, then the consequences of our inaction is going to greatly and hugely affect the next generations. And of course, we do not want that kind of a world where our children and our children's children are the ones who will have to deal with the consequences and even live longer with the consequences of the world's inaction today.
I think we are motivated by totally different things, and hopefully using our expression when it comes to art and when it comes to any other thing, maybe your children or your children's children will learn from it, and maybe they will want to reverse the damage caused by their fathers and mothers and governments and everyone else.
I think that we need to partnership with the government a lot, because they have more of the potential to build things, build roads, plan, you know. So instead of just telling them, do this, do that, we need this, we need that, and just leave them alone, and then they don't do it, what we do, we tell them, and then we keep on forcing them to do it until they want to do it. When this place was a dump site, nobody cared about it, nobody wanted it, nobody thought of cleaning it up and turn it into something. And then now, when it's purified and clean, people want it, because like after this, the president launched it, people started saying, this is my land, I want this, I need it back, you know, blah, 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 etc, fish cake. Many things that need to be done is plant as many more trees, make sure that green spaces are clean, make sure that rivers are clean.
What the government can do for us, especially sisi watu wapya sana, watutengenezee something decent than what we are now doing, because after all we are paying the tax. Na all the same mtu atakuwa nini, anaona hapo ni pahali pazuri pa kuja kupumzika. Juu kama ni pahali okay, mimi nimeweka yangu clean na wale wengine, so wakuwe na security that our street children hakuna mtu anakuja kusibua watu. Mimi nilikuwa nimeoleka Rwanda, na Rwanda is a very clean country, so nikafuata ile ya kacha ya huko ya kuwa uwezi ukaenda kwa barabara ukikula ukitupatupa, unakuta dustbin unaweka kitu ile uko naye. Na hata nini, kuna kuaga na siku inaitagwa Muganda's Day. Hiyo siku kila mtu wote hata president himself anajipresent who clean the country. So nikaona hiyo nikaenda na hiyo kacha ya kuwa na hiyo kupenda kitu ambaye environment ikuwe safi.
So these are the kind of issues that we wanted to point out and see ways in which we can be able to ensure that any sort of development that does take place in our country is, one, people-oriented, and second, there is the transparency with regards to information, so that we don't have to feel like, we are giving our consent to a project that, one, is going to be detrimental with regards to our environment, detrimental with regards to our social life, because people depend on these green spaces, detrimental with regards to our economic life, because there are vendors who depend on the green spaces as well. And it's basically going to, be detrimental with regards to our quality of life. So these are the reasons why we need to question any sort of development that takes place. Is it ethical? Does it follow the necessary procedures that are supposed to be followed? Yeah. Young people have an opportunity to talk about green spaces and seeing ways in which we can be able to protect them as well as increase the green spaces in our country. And this is the reason why I joined the Daima Green Spaces. Daima Green Spaces is a consortium of different environmental organizations as well as environmental enthusiasts who want to seek ways in which we can increase our green spaces, protect our current green spaces at risk, and see ways in which we can be able to involve the youth and the younger generation in protecting the environment and standing up for it.
It's for you, for your spirit, for your soul. And together, I feel like we have no excuse. Our only limitation is our imagination.